What type of perverted person are you? I want to know right now. You are a monster. You're a child.
That was Britney Zamora years ago. Today, she's serving a lengthy prison sentence, convicted as a sexual predator. So what happened? How does a trusted teacher go from the classroom to a jail cell? Investigators say the case unraveled because of something simple: a parental monitoring app and one father who refused to ignore what he found. What he uncovered would expose a disturbing pattern, one that prosecutors say had been happening in secret for months. In this episode of Criminal Motives, we break down the story from beginning to end and the behavior behind it. I'm Matthew Pfeiffer, a therapist who analyzes the behavior behind high-profile true crime cases. Let's get into it.
Britney Zamora's case takes us to Goodyear, Arizona, a city just outside of Phoenix, the year 2018.
Welcome to practice. This is where all you news become yellow turds. Yeah. First, we need to learn how to tackle. Go!
Zamora was a sixth grade teacher at Las Brisas Academy. She was popular, pretty, and married. The 27-year-old seemed to have it all, a picture-perfect life.
Hey, Zamora.
And Miss Zamora, as her students called her, appeared to be a hit with her students. But there was something deeply disturbing going on with Britney Zamora that no one seemed to suspect, until it was too late for one student. The pretty blonde teacher was getting entirely too close to him. And in March 2018, the father of the 13-year-old boy would discover something on his son's phone that sends him into a rage. It's a direct message between his son and Miss Zamora that reads, "Hey, baby." The boy writes back, "Hey, love." Miss Zamora responds, "WYD, that's shorthand for what you doing." The boy says, "Thinking about your sexy self." Zamora replies, "Ah, baby, I wish you were with me." This discovery prompts the father to confront his son and soon Britney Zamora herself. And here's the kicker. The dad records the entire conversation as evidence.
What type of perverted person are you? I want to know right now. You are a monster. You are a pedophile. You're a child molester. Do you understand me? Do me a favor. Do not call this number back again. The next time you'll hear from me will be in court. And make sure you let your husband know that you like the 13-year-old boys. And I am coming for you.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a wonderful evening, okay, you stupid.
Can you explain to me? Can we meet, to talk about this? Is there something we can settle out, outside?
Oh yeah, that's what we can do. So I can give you a chance to do it to some other kid. Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do. No, Ms. Zamora, do me a favor. Do not call me back again. Do you understand me? Make sure you tell your husband what's going on.
He's right here. Can he?
So before we get into the husband's call, I hate to interrupt this call, but I want to point out that what Ms. Zamora is doing is a very common manipulative tactic that manipulators use, is try to convince you to not speak to the police, not talk to, let's handle this outside of court, outside of, but ultimately, when you think about it, it ultimately gives them the power. She's the one that, even if he agreed to this, and I applaud the father for not agreeing to this, because he's exactly right. If there are no consequences for this, then there's just going to be other 13-year-old boys who experience this. And unfortunately, when people allow for this to happen, and what I mean by allow for this to happen, when they don't take it serious because the perpetrator is a woman, then guess what? All of a sudden there are multiple different victims. And this is the problem with not taking women perpetrators more seriously in situations like this. But let's continue. I want to hear what the husband has to say to the father, but I just wanted to point out that the father doesn't fall for the tactic, but that's a tactic that she's trying to engage.
He talked to you?
Oh yeah, put your husband on the phone. I'm more than happy to talk that dumb too.
Hey man.
Hey, don't say hey man to me. You got a monster. If I was you, you stupid, I'd leave her.
Man, listen.
No, listen to me, you stupid. I'll cave your stupid head. Do you want to? I'd love to put my hands on you. You are stupid.
The video cuts off right there, and you can clearly hear Britney Zamora trying to calm the father down, hoping to smooth things over. But the father is undeterred.
One thing that is interesting with the father's reaction, I think that a lot of people would expect a father to react this way if it is the perpetrator is a male with his daughter. And I am really excited to see that the reaction, I hate that they're going through this, but the reaction is just as volatile when the perpetrator is a woman to a son. Oftentimes, and you see this in the comment section, you might even see it in this comment section where someone might say something along the lines of, well, I wish I was that 13-year-old. But what people don't understand is that even if the minor in this situation, in any situation, right, when we're talking about male victims, is able to handle it physically, right? And this is the bias that a lot of times people have is that they think back to the time that they were at a certain age and, I was developed and I was the captain of the football team and those sorts of things. And it's one thing to be developed in terms of physical stature and those sorts of things and being able to handle the act of sex. But it's a completely different level when we talk about power dynamics, when the person is a teacher, nearly 30-year-old teacher at that. And at 13 years old, 16 years old, as a minor, you're not thinking about all of the consequences that come with this. But this is the bias that people have to break out of, is that just because a young man might be able to handle something physically, maybe he's even bigger and taller and stronger than the perpetrator in these type of situations. But it doesn't make it right mentally, even physically or emotional. I'm really happy to see that the father was outraged by this and wasn't applauding his son the way that some other fathers, unfortunately, might in situations like this. But let's continue.
He goes to Las Brisas Academy to meet with police.
One other thing, I want to mention the husband. The husband is very clearly an enabler. So this case happened, I believe, in 2018, 2019, something along those lines. And the husband didn't divorce her till, I want to say fairly recently, maybe 2024. But clearly, well after this was over. But you hear the husband, Britney's husband, in this situation, trying to convince the father of the child to not take this to court, to not go to authorities and those sorts of things, which, again, if we were dealing with a more traditional situation like this, where the perpetrator is a man, we would very clearly say that the woman in that situation, that the wife in that situation is an enabler. And that's very clearly what's happening here as well, is that we have a perpetrator wife and a enabler husband. I'm going to talk about that dynamic here in a little bit more, because I want to talk about how she really set herself and put herself in positions like this, and how oftentimes a lot of perpetrators will do that. So let's talk about that here in a second.
And school officials, revealing how he discovered the messages and the abuse.
Morning, folks. I'm Officer McFadden. I'm the school resource officer.
The meeting begins with an update on Britney Zamora's employment status with the school.
All right, so I know you already know a little bit about where we're at now. So Mrs. Zamora's been placed on administrative leave. She won't be coming in today, and she'll be on administrative leave pending the investigation. And she's not to have any contact with any district employees, any students or parents. She's not contacted us.
Okay. My question is kind of how did this all begin?
How did we find out?
Correct. Yes. How did it come to light?
So I have an app on my son's phone.
Okay.
We got him a new phone, and he was wanting to shut his door at night. When we told him, you sleep with the door open, he was just showing more interest in girls. And I had a conversation with him, and he says, I talk to girls, but they're just my friends. So when we got the new phone, I put this app on his phone, and it alerts me. It's called Sentry.
Sentry PC is used by parents around the world. It's specifically designed to monitor, filter, and control the computer and phone activity of children.
So yesterday I got the alert, and I kept getting alerts back to back because the word baby kept being used. So I'm reading through the conversations, and I've done this before with other conversations of his as well. But this time I saw at the bottom that it had Mrs. Zamora Instagram profile. That's her name. And I'm familiar with her profile name because she's messaged me through Instagram as well, tutoring and offering help. And so I recognized, and I told my husband, and we looked it over, and then what confirmed it is her first name was used in the conversation, where either he wrote it or she wrote it.
Okay.
And they put last name. And so then the conversation just kept on, and it was like he was talking to a girl, like his girlfriend. So I showed my husband the conversation, and then when he came home, we talked to my son, and we told him, we need you to be completely honest right now. We already know the answer to everything we're going to ask, so we just need you to tell us the truth.
Okay.
So we showed him the conversation, and we said, "Who is this? Who are you talking to?" And he said, "My teacher."
Okay.
So then my husband, we're very blunt with our kids, and we're open, and we've had conversations with him growing up and all that is expected. And so my husband just told him,
Okay.
"Have you done anything with your teacher? Did you have sex with your teacher?" And he said yes.
He said yes. Okay.
The school resource officer asks the parents how their young son reacted when confronted about his inappropriate relationship with his teacher.
He was scared. He knew something was happening before we questioned him, because I came home and I took the phone and I shut his computer off. I took all electronics he could access, and I told him, he kept trying to ask me what's going on. And I told him, "You go find out when Dad gets home. We'll talk when Dad gets home." So he was worried. He knew that something was up.
Right.
And then after we talked to him and we told him, he just kind of got quiet, and he
shaking, saying he's cold. Started being scared.
All of this leads to an interview with the 6th grade boy.
I know that is.
So before we get into the boys' interview, so you hear about how the teacher reached out to not only the son on Instagram, but also the parents on Instagram for tutoring, those sorts of things. And where I was going to go with this, when I alluded to this earlier, is that perpetrators oftentimes will put themselves in positions that they will be surrounded by kids, right? Teachers, coaches, those sorts of things. And a lot of times people think that with female perpetrators, are the ones that are typically going to be a little bit more playful, that are going to be laxed with boundaries, those sorts of things. You see this not only with teachers, but also mothers of teenagers who might be the one who lets the kids drink, that might be the one who lets the kids come over and party, that wears skimpy stuff around the kids, that seems like they are one of them, so to speak. You saw this a lot with the case with the mayor in Louisiana. I don't remember, Mayor Misty. I did an episode on that if you wanted to check that out. That she not only had kids come over, but she also was offering them drinks and flirting with them, swimming with them in bikini. And you see those type of dynamics where the perpetrator will put themselves in that child's world and act as though they're on the same level. And this obviously gets into some grooming behavior, those sorts of things. And the reason why I bring this up is that thankfully the parents had an app and they were able to catch on to this. And I encourage for those of you who are who have minor children to get apps on your phone so you can monitor your children, those sorts of things. But But going back to the husband had to have known that something was going on. You can't convince me. So as a therapist who has worked with people who have caught people cheating and have caught people and suspected people were living double lives and those sorts of things, you can't tell me that you didn't suspect that something was going on when your wife is basically having an affair with a student. Now, obviously, she could have said something along the lines of, oh, it's just my kids from school and those sorts of things. But there still should be some inkling that lets the husband know that something was going on, which him not saying anything, him not catching on, but then for him to try to convince the father to not press charges, for him to try to convince the father to meet up and those sorts of things really shows a lot of enabling tendencies on the husband's end. Then after the fact, and again, I believe they stayed married even after she was arrested, even after she was charged, even after she was convicted, all the way through prison. And I believe that they just recently were divorced. And so it really speaks to, a certain level of codependency and people pleasing that the husband likely has. And also it's a really good chance that that's the reason why she chose him as a husband, was because she knew that she could get away with some bad behavior, even if that was subconsciously. It may not be something that she intentionally did, but subconsciously knew that she could get away with and kind of press her luck, so to speak, with that type of husband. But let's continue.
Your first name.
A forensic interviewer is brought in to handle the delicate nature of the situation. The boy needs to feel comfortable enough to divulge details that couldn't be more personal and more embarrassing or traumatic.
Tell me about a couple things that you like to do.
I play football, write, and draw.
So I like to play football, and you like to write and draw. So tell me about the last time you got a chance to play football.
The boy and the interviewer talk for several minutes, and then they get into how the abuse started.
So I heard something happened. Tell me about it. Start at the beginning. Tell me everything, no matter how small the details are, no matter how unimportant you think everything is.
Like from the very beginning, like how it all started.
Like from the very beginning, how it all started.
Well, I was texting my teacher on class prep because she made an announcement to the class that she was going to be at school, and for us to text her because she'll be bored. So she said to text her so she wouldn't be bored. And I said, I'm Zamora, and then she texted back hi, and then we just started texting. I can't remember all we texted, but then she was like, would it be weird if I sent you a winky face? I was like, no, it's just a winky face, LOL. And then we kept texting, and I don't remember all we texted, but I was in my room, and she said, I was bored. She said, I'm bored. I said, LOL, I am too. And then she said, come over, and I said, on my way. They put the card out, JK. And then we were talking about a school dance, and she said, are you going to come? And I was I don't think so, I might though. And she was like, oh, salty bae. And she called herself bae. And I was like, and I just brushed off, LOL. And then I don't remember talking, I don't remember what else we talked about. And
so before he continues, that what he just explains everything that I was talking about before. So initially, she said it to the entire class, text me so I'm not bored, right? Putting it on the entire class as though the class is her entertainment, right? We're all people who watch this show should know that we're old enough that they shouldn't be your entertainment. Then, as I'm sure she got text messages from other students as well, but it's more than likely that this boy and maybe even a couple other boys from the class were the target, right? And that was the intent, was to send out a message to the entire classroom, instead of specifically pointing out this boy specifically to ask him for his number or whatever, but in a very casual way, try to get the boy to be the one to text her, right? But make it seem as though it was like a class thing, and that one thing just led to another. But all that was actually a part of the grooming process. You see and hear a lot about this with perpetrators who will do like they'll play with the kids, where they have some sort of play, they're wrestling around, and they inappropriately touch the minor in certain spots, but they make it seem as though that was just a part of the play. And that's similar type of behavior, same type of mindset that happened here, right? Oh, it's just a part of what we do for this class project. I need you to text me so I'm not bored. And then allow for, once they have them isolated, they're able to do and talk about inappropriate things, right? And then, send a test of, is it okay if I send you a winky face? And, obviously inappropriate, but clearly a grooming test that she was doing towards him. But let's continue.
Like everything else, I don't remember. But, yeah, we would flirt a lot. And we would be out at recess, and I would talk to her, and we would flirt at recess. And then, our principal said that we couldn't do that. We couldn't talk at recess no more, that I needed to go hang out because other kids were getting jealous that I was talking to her and not them. And so I stopped talking to her at recess, and then I would just keep texting. I would text her.
The boy said the inappropriate relationship began with flirting, and then Britney Zamora escalated the grooming, telling him that she wanted to perform a sex act on him.
Tell me about that. Start at the beginning, go all the way to the very end.
The first time she did, I was at my grandparents' house, and she texted me, and she was all like, hey, and I was like, hey, she's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm about to go to bed, I'm at my grandparents' house. She's like, are you alone? And I was like, well, they're all sleeping, so sort of. And she's like, let me come over. I was like, LOL. And then she's like, no, I'm serious. And then she's already said this before to me, but I was playing with my little brother outside in my house, and she was all like, let me come over so I can show you how much I love you. And I was like, no, my little brother's here. And she was like, okay. And then she put the sad face. I was like, I gotta go. And then she was all like, okay, I love you. And I said, I love you too. But she was all like, where is your grandparents' house? I'm like, oh. And then she's like, okay, send me the address, because her husband was fishing. And I got into the car, and she started kissing me, and then she gave me and then I left.
The interviewer asks the boy for more details. Investigators will use these details to corroborate his story, details that a student shouldn't really know about their teacher.
What kind of car does she have?
A Mazda, I think she said. I don't know for sure, but I think she said a Mazda.
What color is it?
It's like a blackish purple.
Tell me more about the car.
It has a teacher's license plate.
So you went out to the car. What's the very first thing that happened?
She said, hey, baby.
And then what happened?
And I said, hey, baby. And then she kissed me. And then, we started, making out. But, and then I just left. Because her husband texted her that he was going to be home in an hour.
So when you back up a little bit, so when you very first met Mrs. Zamora, tell me what you thought of her.
Thought she was pretty.
Did she ever come into the house, or how did that work?
No, she never came into the house.
Okay. So if I understand this, you went out to the car?
Yeah.
So that time, second time, start at the beginning and tell me everything. So tell me about her clothes.
The second time, the first time she was wearing a sweatshirt and some really short shorts. And then the first time she was wearing that. And the second time she was just wearing a dress.
Now, if this wasn't disturbing enough, the boy says that some of the abuse happened in a classroom at Las Brisas Academy too. And another student was actually there as it unfolded.
We were picking up our bags, and we really had no intention of doing it that time. And I was saying bye, and then we started kissing again. And then yeah, go outside and make sure nobody comes. Because I think the janitors were there. My dad called me, he's like, hey, I'm here at the school. I was like, all right. And then I left.
So I talked about this in previous episodes where I said that trauma is contagious. So not only is trauma contagious, but you have to understand that it's also contagious when the person doesn't realize that they're being traumatized, even if they, quote, enjoy it. So in this situation, the minor is, quote, participating. I use that very loosely because obviously he's been manipulated, those sorts of things. But what I mean by participating, he's doing what adults do. But people who traumatize others as adults. Now, I always say this, trauma doesn't okay bad behavior. But when we look at deviant behavior, especially deviant sexual behavior from men, we talk about men's bad behavior all the time on social media and, in the news, and we hear about all the time. Where do we think that it started? Right? Where did they get these ideas that women are sexual objects and that they can just do what they want with them and have this expectation that all women want them and that they can just have their way and just send my friend for a lookout and those sorts of things? Where do we think that all that behavior started? Right? It starts in situations like this. And this is the reason why it's important for people to have conversations not only with their young men, but also with young women, that women can be perpetrators too. It is extremely, extremely important. But let's continue.
So, when you started kissing?
He was drawing something on the whiteboard.
So he was there when you were kissing?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Okay. So then, was it time or did he?
No, he said, I'm going to go outside. And I said, yeah, bro, go outside.
The victim reveals intimate details about Britney Zamora to the investigator, details that he could only know.
And also, I wonder if this is her first victim, with as bold as she is to not only do this to begin with, but to do this while another student is in the classroom. It really speaks to her boldness and to her level of confidence. I use that term very loosely. And it makes me wonder if this is something that she's kind of used to and accustomed to, and if there's other victims that are out there. But let's continue.
No, if he was telling the truth about the abuse he suffered at her hands. But the abuse wasn't just physical. It followed him home via his phone.
And you said she sent you pictures. Tell me everything about pictures.
Sometimes I would ask, and then sometimes I wouldn't, and she'd be like, in a picture, and I'll say yeah.
Well, what do the pictures look like?
They'd just be her stuff, or one time she sent me a full body picture of her in this outfit, you can have anything right here, or by herself.
And how did she send that to you? What was the social media platform that? Instagram. Did you screenshot any of those? Is there a time that someone else saw one of those pictures?
One time she sent me a picture of her covering herself, and she was in her underwear. And my friend, he sent that one.
And what friend? What's his last name? And how do you know him?
He's been my best friend since 3rd grade.
And do you have any idea when the first pictures were sent? No? Okay. So, understand how all of this makes you feel.
Right now? My stomach just hurts. I don't feel good.
The testimony of the child is downright disturbing, and when coupled with the digital trail she left behind, it all leads to Goodyear police detectives tracking Zamora down and taking her into custody.
Kathy, you should have a picture of him. Yep, I'm on.
As I said before, this officer has a body cam on him as well, so just to make you feel more comfortable, even though
Hey, Brittany, come on over here.
Yeah.
Did you double lock?
I did it.
Okay. Okay. Brittany, I'm going to turn your wrist in here, okay?
No, we just want to make sure they don't hit you. Okay. So we double lock them so they don't close any tighter, okay? Otherwise, it's squeeze shut.
Britney Zamora is charged with sexual conduct with a minor, attempted molestation of a child, and public sexual indecency.
Did you know about that? Do you have anything on you that's going to hurt me, poke me, stick me, Brittany? Do you have anything on you that's going to hurt me, poke me, stick me, anything like that?
No.
Anything dangerous? No weapons? Okay.
Can I take my ring off?
Yeah, can you?
Am I going to be able to put it back on?
Yeah, you will. This is your personal property.
So everything that goes in this bag.
I'm going to take your necklace off as well.
So we'll document it.
Can you handcuff me so I can take my belly button now?
Your what?
We'll let you.
We'll do that at the jail.
Okay.
We're not gonna have.
Or at the station.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll have you do the same with the nose ring too.
Not right now.
No. It's back there. Yeah.
I got it. Okay. All right. Go ahead and face the vehicle for me.
She says she does have a wire.
A wire? Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is a blade technique. I'm just going to go below the breast. Okay. And then you're wearing a dress. Other than that, you don't have anything stuffed in your bra?
No.
Okay. Okay. And then is this just an outer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can take it off.
No, you can keep it on. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Can you turn towards me? Open up your mouth. Lift up your tongue. Okay. And then I will help you. I know it's a big step.
I'm only 5 foot.
I know. I feel it. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. And scoot your butt a little forward, and you're going to be able to lean back and put your arms right here.
So it's kind of a cutout a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sort of. And you can
put your weight on them.
Yeah.
Britney Zamora, a wife and teacher, is now on her way to jail.
One female in custody on board. En route to ops, starting 4-6.
Copy.
You want the window down a little bit? Okay.
A stunning fall from grace, an educator trusted to care for children, someone who is supposed to provide a safe environment for them, now stands accused of violating the trust of the school and parents. Police and Zamora arrive at the station.
Yep. And we are going to go over to that wall. This way. This way.
Stop at the wall?
Yep.
Zamora doesn't yet know what the charges are against her, but because Las Brisas Academy has placed her on administrative leave, and because the victim's father confronted her by phone, it's not hard to put the pieces together. But police now need to get her side of the story.
Did they tell you why you're here? They didn't tell you why you're under arrest?
No.
Okay. It's involving that relationship with... Okay. So I told you a little bit ago that I was going to come and talk to you and give you the opportunity to tell me what's going on. Okay. Obviously, you both know why you're here. How long do you, or where do you work right now, Brittany?
Las Brisas Academy.
And how long have you been there?
Since July.
What's your first year?
Well, that's
At that school. And where were you before that?
Littleton Elementary School.
And how long were you there?
From July 2013 to May 2017.
And what's your position right now?
6th grade teacher.
You said this is the first time you've been in trouble.
Um,
Yeah, and you're 27, so you made it a long ways. So I'm not going to judge you, and people do make mistakes. So there's mistakes that are made in life, and they happen, and it's basically how people move on from those is kind of who they are as a person. So I'm not going to deny that, that it's something, and I'm sure you're not either, that it's something that shouldn't have happened. But I'm not going to call you a monster or anything like that and say you did something so, crazy that you're a horrible person. So I wanted you to explain, how this came to happen.
Can I have an attorney?
You can. Is that what you want?
Okay.
All right.
I'm just gonna go traveling.
That's fine.
Will I be going home today?
No.
So will I be in jail? Do these type of things have to be made public?
They don't have to be made public, but you've kind of been in the school industry long enough to know that when something happens at a school, letters end up having to go out and people ask questions.
It appears that Britney Zamora is not in the mood to discuss any of this.
I'm not going to ask you any more questions because you said you wanted an attorney. So did you have any more questions for me?
What are the next steps?
The next step is basically you do go to jail tonight. I submit some paperwork.
I'm little. They're going to tear me apart.
Well, I mean, if you have problems with somebody, you can voice that to somebody, okay? And if there are problems, they can isolate you.
How long do I stay in jail for?
Basically, the way it usually happens is you go down there and you see an IA judge within 12 hours, and the judge will determine what they want to do.
Okay.
And so they will determine if they are going to let you out on a certain amount of bond.
Okay.
And they make that determination on, kind of how.
I am the best husband in the world.
Okay.
So much
What's that?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Britney Zamora, the pretty teacher with the best husband in the world, is booked into the Maricopa County Jail, and her story makes national news. How could someone who seems to have it all just throw it all away for a 13-year-old boy? It's a question that even today boggles the mind as we see more and more female teachers, people who have sworn to nurture and protect children, preying on their own students. In 2019, Britney Zamora pleaded guilty to 3 felony charges, including public sexual indecency. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She's scheduled to be released in March 2038. Zamora and her husband are now divorced.
That's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And also be sure to subscribe to my Substack where I keep people updated on cases like this all the time. With all that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. You guys have a good one.